billionaire's new wife, until a quiet woman named Diana changed everything. The bucket tipped, sending a wave of dirty water across the marble floor. From the top of the staircase, Victoria Richards watched like a queen surveying her throne, a teacup balanced elegantly in her hand. "That's the third time this week someone's gotten in my way," she sighed, descending with deliberate grace. "I'm really not in the mood for this." Diana Santos didn't respond. She simply grabbed the mop, her slippers squelching softly as she cleaned the mess. In the hallway, whispers floated through the air. "She won't last a week." But they didn't know who they were dealing with. At 42, Diana had already faced storms far greater than arrogance. Her daughter's heart surgery had drained every last cent she had, and pride was a luxury she could no longer afford. She wasn't in that mansion to win favor. She was there to survive. The Richards estate on Bishop Drive was famous for two things: its stunning view of the bay and its endless staff turnover. In just 6 months, 9 maids had quit, some in tears, others in silence. One even left barefoot. Victoria, the second wife of oil tycoon William Richards, was only 33 but carried herself like royalty. Her beauty was flawless, her tongue sharp. Staff said she made up for the age gap with cruelty, as if proving her worth required someone else's pain. "Do you understand English?" Victoria asked, eyes cold as Diana wiped the floor. "Yes, ma'am," Diana replied softly. "Still working." "Good. Disorganized people make me nervous," Victoria said, letting the last word hang like a warning. Diana said nothing, but her gaze flicked to the small security camera in the corner, quietly recording everything. Victoria had no idea she'd just walked into a story that would turn her world upside down. Because Diana wasn't just another maid. She was a strategist in disguise, a woman who had learned to turn hardship into quiet power. If you're drawn to stories where patience and grace defeat arrogance, make sure to subscribe, because what Diana did next would prove that the calmest person in the room is often the one holding all the cards. The following days were a cruel routine. Every morning at 9, Victoria demanded her coffee, exactly 72 degrees. Not hotter, not colder. When Diana got it right, the sugar was wrong. When the sugar was perfect, the cup wasn't clean. And when everything was flawless, the drink was too cold. "Are you deaf?" Victoria snapped one morning, spilling coffee across a 5,000 rug. "I told you how I like it." Diana quietly cleaned the stain while Victoria took a selfie for social media captioned, "Some days you just have to teach people how to do things right." Madam Life Standards. 15,000 likes in 20 minutes. What Victoria didn't know was that Diana had once been an administrative manager at a hospital before her daughter's second surgery forced her into any work she could find. She dealt with plenty of women like Victoria before, the kind who confused cruelty for confidence. Now she simply smiled and endured, because her paycheck wasn't just a salary, it was her daughter's heartbeat. "My last maid lasted 4 days, Victoria said casually one afternoon. "She thought she could outsmart me. Big mistake." She opened her laptop, showing Diana a post from a private social group. "Any recommendations for decent help?" The last one was useless. People just don't understand that quality has a price. Diana said nothing, but as she folded the silk sheets, a quiet fire lit behind her eyes. Because she wasn't there to fight Victoria. She was there to outlast her. 143 supportive comments flooded in from other wealthy wives, all sharing the same complaint. How hard it was to find good help these days. Diana read every line in silence, mentally filing away every name, every detail. She realized that Victoria didn't just humiliate people face to face. She turned their pain into social entertainment. "You can read, right?" Victoria sneered. "Or should I translate for you?" "I understand perfectly, ma'am," Diana replied, her tone calm, her hands folding clothes with flawless precision. The next week, the psychological games intensified. Victoria hid the vacuum cleaner, then accused Diana of being lazy. She changed the Wi-Fi password and later accused her of stealing internet when she tried to check messages about her daughter during her short lunch break. But the worst came on Friday. While cleaning William's office, Diana noticed an open folder. Documents about donations to the Children's Heart Foundation, the same organization that had once helped pay for part of her daughter Emma's surgery. Just then, Victoria walked in. "Curious, aren't you?" she said sharply, snapping the folder shut. My husband loves pretending he's some kind of savior. He donates thousands to charities that only make people dependent instead of teaching them responsibility. Diana felt her pulse quicken, but her face stayed calm. You know what I always tell him? Victoria continued, amused by her own cruelty. Charity begins at home. Why waste money on strangers when we could remodel our beach house? That night, Diana called Emma from her small servant's room. Her 9-year-old sounded tired but cheerful, eager to share a story from school. Mommy, when are you coming home? She asked softly. Soon, sweetheart, Diana whispered. Mommy just has to work a little longer to make sure you stay healthy. After the call, Diana opened her worn notebook. She began documenting everything. Victoria's schedule, her words, her habits. Every insult, every social post, every manipulation had a date, a time, and a motive. Screenshots were saved. Notes were backed up. Because Diana wasn't just a maid enduring cruelty, she was a strategist, gathering evidence piece by piece. And while Victoria slept peacefully in her silk sheets, convinced she ruled her world, Diana was quietly building something far more powerful. A plan that the arrogant madam would never see coming. Because the quietest person in the room isn't always weak. Sometimes they're simply preparing. And when you underestimate someone who's already lost everything once, that's when patience becomes the most dangerous weapon of all. Diana's second week began with new forms of humiliation. At breakfast, Victoria uploaded a short video to social media, Diana scrubbing the marble floor, with the caption, POV, when you have to supervise every move because some people just don't get quality standards. Within 2 hours, it hit 50,000 views. From the corner of the kitchen, Diana watched silently, adding another note to her growing collection. Every video, every caption, every cruel comment, all recorded, all backed up. Did you see my video? Victoria asked later as Diana served lunch. My followers loved it. Some even asked if you could work for them too, she laughed. I told them you're still on probation. But while Victoria was busy posting, Diana was doing something far more meaningful. During the early hours when everyone slept, she sat quietly at the office computer, researching the Richards family, their businesses, and especially William's donations. That's when she uncovered something that changed everything. William Richards wasn't just a donor to the Children's Heart Foundation. He was on the board of directors, and his recent contributions had increased dramatically, focused specifically on heart surgeries for children from low-income families. Then on Wednesday, luck found her. While tidying the office, Diana overheard William on the phone. Dr. Martinez, I completely agree, he said, pacing the room. The foundation needs more documented success stories. Something emotional that shows how donations change lives. Real families, real children. Diana froze. Dr. Martinez, that was Emma's doctor. William continued, unaware of her presence. If you know any family struggling to cover their medical bills, that would be ideal for our presentation next week. A story of resilience always inspires other donors. When he hung up, Diana's hands kept moving, but her mind was already racing. A daring idea was forming. That night, for the first time in months, Diana reached out to someone from her past. Her former boss, Dr. Sarah Chun, the hospital administrator she had worked with for over a decade. Diana! Oh my goodness, what a surprise! Sarah's warm voice answered. How are you and Emma? Tears welled up in Diana's eyes. We're holding on, she said softly, one day at a time. I'm calling because I need a very specific favor. Diana's voice trembled slightly as she spoke to Dr. Sarah Chun, her former hospital supervisor. She explained her situation carefully, leaving out the humiliation, but emphasizing one detail. She now worked for a family deeply connected to the Children's Heart Foundation. Interesting, Sarah said after a pause. You know, we currently have several cases just like Emma's. Families desperate for help, children who need costly heart procedures. And coincidentally, Dr. Martinez mentioned he's looking for new cases to feature in an upcoming foundation presentation. Diana's heart began to race. That's exactly what I wanted to talk about. The first phase, over the next few days, she quietly began the first phase of her plan. Nothing dramatic, just careful, deliberate seeds. While polishing silverware, she took brief phone calls in earshot of William Richards. "Yes, doctor." "She's recovering well after her last surgery," she said one morning, fully aware William was having breakfast nearby. "The challenge is that insurance only covers 60%. I can't afford to miss work right now. This job is all we have." She never mentioned Emma directly to him, never asked for sympathy. She simply let the truth float through the air like background music. And it worked. William began to listen. His hands would pause mid-movement whenever she spoke about hospital bills. He was a tough businessman, but a father first. He had lost his first wife during childbirth, along with their baby daughter. That grief never left him. It only hid behind polished manners and quiet routines. For the first time, Diana saw empathy flicker behind his composed facade. Victoria's breaking point. But the more attention William gave Diana, the crueler Victoria became. One night, she checked the home's surveillance system and exploded. "You thought I wouldn't find out?" she screamed the next morning, jabbing a manicured finger inches from Diana's face. "You used our computer. That's a violation of your contract grounds for instant termination." Diana stayed calm. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I only needed to check something related to my daughter's medical treatment. I didn't touch anything private." "I don't care," Victoria snapped. "You have no right to use anything that isn't part of your cleaning duties." Then with a cold smile, she delivered what she thought was a perfect punishment. "Since you love using computers so much, you can scan all the office documents by hand. Every single one. I want it done by Friday." It was an impossible task. Hundreds of pages that should have taken weeks. But Diana only nodded. "Of course, ma'am. I'll start right away." The turning point. What Victoria didn't realize was that she had just given Diana full access to the most private files in the mansion, personal correspondence, donation records, and confidential contact lists of every influential figure tied to William's philanthropic work. That night, under the faint glow of the desk lamp, Diana began her quiet excavation, and what she uncovered made her blood boil. Victoria had secretly intercepted at least 3 of William's attempts to increase the family's charitable donations. In multiple emails, she argued that too much charity breeds weakness and insisted that the money would be better spent on something practical, like renovating her beach villa. Worse, there were transfers showing that Victoria had used the couple's joint account to send $50,000 to an organization that was nothing more than a luxury spa disguised as a wellness retreat for philanthropic recovery. She and her friends were its only beneficiaries. Diana photographed everything, every email, every transaction, every fraudulent receipt. And then she found it, the final piece, an internal memo about the upcoming Children's Heart Foundation presentation scheduled for the following Monday. William was set to deliver a keynote speech titled "Stories of Hope, How Compassion Changes Lives." Sitting alone at 2 a.m, surrounded by proof of corruption and hypocrisy, Diana smiled for the first time in weeks, not a smile of happiness, a smile of clarity. Victoria thought she was punishing her maid, but in truth she had handed Diana every weapon she needed. And the most poetic part of all? Victoria's downfall would come from the very thing she worshipped, control. Her obsession with documenting everything would become the evidence of her own undoing. Because sometimes the most dangerous person in the room isn't the one shouting orders. It's the one who listens quietly, works patiently, and transforms every humiliation into strategy. A strategy so precise that when it unfolds, it doesn't just bring justice, it rewrites the rules of the game. Monday. The sky was clear, the air crisp, a perfect autumn morning. Victoria woke up buzzing with energy, posting a mirror selfie captioned, "Ready to support my husband's big charity day. Power couple philanthropy blessed." 53,000 likes in an hour. She smiled, unaware that the day ahead would shatter her kingdom of glass. 53,000 likes in an hour. Victoria smiled proudly at her reflection as she sipped her perfectly tempered coffee. Another morning of admiration and attention. But the illusion shattered when she glanced at her phone. A new message had appeared. From Truth About Charity. Message: Mrs. Richards, you may want to check your email before today's presentation. There's something about your philanthropy you'll find interesting. Victoria frowned. Probably just another jealous troll, she muttered. Still, curiosity won. She opened her inbox and froze. A folder sat at the top, labeled Truth. Inside were screenshots of every fraudulent transaction, every hidden transfer, every mocking comment she'd ever written about the families her husband's foundation supported. Emails showing her diverting $50,000 of donation funds to a luxury spa under the name of a wellness retreat. Private messages where she called struggling parents pathetic and said they should fix themselves instead of begging. Her blood turned to ice. "William!" she screamed, storming toward the office. "Someone hacked us!" But William wasn't there. He had already left for the foundation's morning meeting. In the dining room, Diana quietly arranged the table, her movements calm and precise. "You!" Victoria shouted, pointing a trembling finger. "You did this!" Diana looked up, her expression soft and confused. "Did what, ma'am?" "These lies, these fake files." Diana took the phone gently, studying the screen. "I don't understand," she said quietly. "These are your emails, your transfers. How could they be fake if they all have your signature?" For a moment, the room was completely silent, until the realization hit. They weren't fake. They were real. Every file had been taken straight from her own computer, the one she had ordered Diana to scan by hand. Victoria's phone began to vibrate nonstop. First a blogger, then 3 journalists, each one asking for a comment on the charity scandal breaking online. And then came the call that ended everything. "Victoria." It was William. His voice was cold, stripped of the warmth she was used to manipulating. "You need to come here, now. The board received some very disturbing information." "William, listen to me. Someone's trying to destroy me." "Enough," he interrupted. "Dr. Martinez just showed me your emails, the ones where you call the families we help parasites living off pity. You sent those messages, Victoria, from your account." Dead silence. "And there's more," William continued. "One of those families, the little girl you mocked, she's our maid's daughter." Victoria felt her knees weaken. "What did you just say?" "Her name is Emma Santos, 9 years old, heart patient, the same Emma whose surgery we sponsored through the foundation." William's voice cracked. "And the same child you wrote off as a lost cause." Victoria turned slowly toward Diana. The woman she had insulted, humiliated, and punished stood quietly by the table, folding napkins one by one. When their eyes met, Diana smiled, not with triumph, but with quiet sadness. "The presentation has been canceled," William said. "The board is discussing legal action. You've disgraced everything this foundation stands for." The call ended. Victoria stared at the silent phone, her reflection trembling in the glass. "You ruined me," she whispered. "You planned this." Diana placed the last folded napkin neatly on the table and met her gaze. "No, ma'am," she said softly. "I didn't destroy you. I just documented what you did to yourself." "You're a snake," Victoria hissed. "A parasite who invaded my home." Diana exhaled slowly. "The irony, ma'am. If you had simply treated me like a human being, none of this would have happened. I would have stayed quietly, done my job, and you'd never even know my story." Victoria's voice broke. No words came, because deep down, she knew Diana was right. The phone rang again. A TV reporter this time. The scandal had gone public. Diana picked up her small purse and walked toward the door. "Oh, one more thing," she said, pausing in the doorway. "Dr. Martinez was deeply moved by your documentation. He's launching a new support program for children of household workers. Emma will be the first enrolled. Free consultations for 5 years." Victoria collapsed into her chair, the glittering world she'd built collapsing around her. Diana stepped outside, through the same door where 9 maids had once fled in tears. But this time, it wasn't the maid crying, it was the madam. From the day she gained access to those files, Diana never looked back. While others obsessed over appearances, she focused on what truly mattered. She had a daughter to pick up from school and a new life to build. One where dignity wasn't a privilege reserved for the wealthy, but a right she had reclaimed with the most powerful weapon of all, the truth. Because sometimes the most dangerous person in the room isn't the one who shouts the loudest or breaks things. It's the one who watches quietly while you build your own downfall. And then, at the perfect moment, simply lets the blade you forge fall into place. 6 months later, the transformation was complete. Diana sat in a bright modern office at the Children's Heart Foundation, not as a beneficiary but as the new family relations coordinator, a role created specifically after her story went viral and inspired the organization's complete reform. Emma, now healthy and full of energy, attended a private school on a full scholarship. Her doctors called her recovery miraculous, but Diana knew it wasn't a miracle. It was the strength of a mother who simply refused to give up. "Mrs. Santos," said Dr. Martinez, walking in with a warm smile, "we just received 15 new applications for the program you designed. Families of domestic workers seeking care for their children." Diana nodded, sorting through the paperwork. Each case got her full attention because she knew exactly what it felt like to be desperate, exhausted, and yet still holding on to hope. Consequences. Meanwhile, Victoria Richards' world had crumbled. The charity scandal destroyed her reputation. Her 80,000 online followers vanished overnight. Worse, the investigation uncovered years of financial misconduct. 2 weeks after the exposure, William Richards filed for divorce, realizing that his wife hadn't only sabotaged his charity efforts, she had also undermined his business, costing millions in lost partnerships. "She's living in a small apartment in Queens," Sarah Chun mentioned one day over lunch. "My cousin's in the same building. She barely leaves the house now." Diana only nodded, her expression calm. She felt neither anger nor satisfaction, because true justice, she had learned, doesn't need applause. It simply happens like balance returning to the world. A different kind of apology. The most unexpected moment came one Thursday afternoon. William Richards appeared at the foundation. He looked older, humbled, and deeply human. "Diana," he said softly, "I want to apologize. Not only for what Victoria did, but for allowing it to happen under my roof. I knew something wasn't right, but I chose silence." Diana studied his face for a moment before answering. "Mr. Richards, sometimes people have to lose everything to rediscover who they are. You can still choose to be different." He nodded, his eyes heavy with remorse, and handed her an envelope. Inside was a check for $200,000 and a property deed. "It's a small house in Westchester," he explained. 3 bedrooms, a yard, good schools nearby. I thought Emma deserved a home where she could just be a kid again." Tears welled up in Diana's eyes. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you reminded me that dignity can't be bought or given. It can only be recognized. And because," he paused, his voice breaking, "my first daughter would have been Emma's age now. Maybe this is my way of honoring her memory." A renewal beginning. That night, Diana tucked Emma into bed in their tiny apartment. Soon they'd be moving to their new home, not as a gift of charity, but as a victory of integrity and strength. "Mommy," Emma murmured sleepily, "my teacher said you're famous now. Is that true?" Diana smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's forehead. "I'm not famous, sweetheart. I just reminded people of something they already knew." "What's that?" "That everyone deserves respect, no matter what they do or how much they have. And that sometimes the strongest person in the room is the one who chooses kindness when others choose cruelty." Emma yawned. "Like you did with the mean lady." Diana chuckled softly. "Exactly like that, my love. Never fight cruelty with cruelty. Show by example that there's a better way to live." Later that night, Diana stepped out onto her small balcony. City lights shimmered across the skyline, a silent reminder of how far she had come. In just a few months, she had gone from being humiliated to respected, from surviving to leading. But her greatest victory wasn't money, position, or recognition. It was proving to herself and to Emma that dignity isn't something others can take from you. It's something you carry within you always. Victoria had tried to break her spirit. Instead, she had forged one of the strongest voices for fairness and compassion. Because sometimes the person who tries to destroy you ends up teaching you exactly who you were meant to be. Diana's true revenge wasn't Victoria's downfall. It was the life she built after, a life so full, so honest, and so radiant that every past cruelty simply faded into irrelevance. If this story touched your heart, if you believe that patience and dignity can turn pain into purpose, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who needs to be reminded. The best revenge isn't destroying those who hurt you. It's building something so beautiful that it makes all the pain worth it.